you know the species name, cannabis sativa. Sativa means useful. So this is the useful hemp. And it is probably one of the most useful plants known. It produces an edible seed, an edible oil, a medicine, a fiber, and an intoxicant. That's a lot of different ways for a plant to be useful. And I think we've been very stupid in our relations with that plant. You know, we've rejected it instead of finding ways, you know, how to make best use of it.
いいですね。今鳩屋、ニュー鳩屋の前通って、思わずおこれだと思って写真撮って、いや本当に風情があります。
そのテレビ局を辞めた理由は東大闘争を撮影してたっていうか撮ってた時に生まれたんですけど、もうこれはやってらんないとか思ったんですよ。あまりにも痛切で遊びが全くないしね、結局もう死んでもいいみたいなそういう空気が分かるわけですよね、はい、でもアメリカのデモそんなの見たことないですよ。
総括するなんてのないわけですね。怖いで
回してて
大麻ってどんなものかですかね。
いや非常に身近なもんですよね。別になんだろう、それこそ子供の頃から近くにあったし、それをこう触ったり嗅いだりしながら育ったわけだから、はい、そうですよね。そんなに違和感なかったですね、最初にその火をつけて吸うということ。僕タバコは吸ってたし、全然なんか抵抗は何もなかったですね。
先生はそのホリスティックの、領域に入っていった経緯というのはどんなことなんですか。
それはやっぱりアメリカで学んだことですね。やっぱり西洋医学だけではダメだっていうのはもうアメリカの中で広がり始めていましたから、すでに、中国医学とか、インド医学とかね、その地球にはいい医学システムがたくさんあるんだから、それを学んで総合的なものにしていくべきだっていう、そういう当たり前の考え方だと思いますけど、ちょうどそれが生まれた頃だったんですよ。70年代って本当に新しい考えが生まれた頃だったんです。
ワイル博士との、出会いというか、お付き合いというのはどんな感じなんですか。
ワイルはね、僕との出会いは出版社春秋社っていう出版社から、近々アメリカでこれの本が出るで、僕が興味あるようなその、新しい医療の考え方、それを書いてる本が近々に出るらしいから、今からそれを買ってみたいから翻訳してくれないかって来たんですよ。で本ができて、本をもらったらすっごく面白くて、これ読み始めたらもうやめられない結局一晩で全部読んじゃって、それで翌日電話でやらせてもらいますって言ってやったのがあそこにある。日本人にしかわからないような言葉が 言葉っていうか書き方がこの中に隠れてるから彼は日本語を多少知ってるし日本のことをすごく好きなんですよね。だからあんまりその通りと訳さなくていい。君にとって面白いところはそれを強調して書けばいいし日本人に分かりやすいように書いてくれれば満足だからというふうにいきなり来たんですよ。でも思っても僕は出した手紙に僕の趣味とか読書傾向とか、ちょっと書いたもんだからそれが聞いたんだと思う。
なるほどね。でも面白そうだな。
それでその翌年かなたまたま日本に来て、会ってものすごく親友になって。
そうなんですね。
非常に親しい人なんですよ。
I was introduced to Mr. Akutagawa by a good friend, Mr. Keiichi Ueno, who translated The Natural Mind, and since then has translated all of my books into Japanese. So we've known each other for a very long time. I saw him the last time I was in Japan a couple of years ago. And so he told me about Mr. Akutagawa and the trial, and then asked me if I would be willing to testify, and I think he then introduced me to Mr. Marui.
僕は芥川さんの裁判の証言録とかを読ませていただいて、芥川さんが主張していたことや、ワイル博士の証言を読んで、すごくそれに感銘して、いろいろ今、証拠としてもいろいろ出してやってる継続中の裁判をやっています。
Has there been any change in the Cannabis Control Act in Japan since 1979?
むしろ後退していて、何も変わってないどころか少し後退しています。
I find that hard to believe and very disappointing because it puts Japan very much out of step with the changes that have happened in almost all developed countries.
今、日本の政府は使用罪というものをつけようとしていることをご存知でしょうか？
But you know, since 1979, there has been a tremendous amount of research on the medical benefits of cannabis, on its safety. In the U.S., the trend is toward complete legalization, both for medical use and recreational use. You know, that's also true in countries like Mexico, in Europe. And this is why I say Japan is very much out of step with the trends that are happening in most civilized countries.
He's making this with reproduced equipment from Jomon era.
Aha.
それでその縄文時代の道具っていうのは麻の表皮を、よってそれを道具にして。
Aha. It's beautiful.
そういう活動の中で、大麻というものが日本の歴史とすごく、縄文時代から関わりが深いことに気づいて、やっぱり今自分が逮捕されて麻というものに対してすいませんでしたって素直に言ってしまうと、嘘をついてしまうと、僕自分の作品がもう二度と作れなくなると思って今、そういう意味で、裁判をやることを決意したんです。
I understand. In 1979, lawyer Marui told me that it was very unusual for a Japanese court to allow a foreigner to testify as an expert witness. And the only reason they let me do that was that there was no native expert on cannabis. What about today? Are there experts in Japan on cannabis and people who will argue for you?
There is a few. I wouldn't say zero.
No.
She says zero. But
that's
not,
so
we don't have anybody like you, for sure. So
No.
we still need your help.
Yes.
Okay, I'm happy to help. But it's unbelievable to me that this situation has not changed in all this time. Unbelievable.
After 43 years after Akutagawa trial, nothing has changed here. whereas the legalization in the States has gained so much momentum and it's moving forward. So how do you think about that? But we've already discussed that.
Yes, and it's not just the United States. It's many countries now. You know, most countries in Europe, but even Mexico, which was a big surprise that that government came out in favor of. Same in some of the South American countries. So Japan is really backward in this, in what's happening.
Do you think the cannabis is going to be either legalized or decriminalized at the federal level in the near future?
Very soon.
Like how soon?
Well, my guess is within 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Legalization or decriminalization?
Well, I think first it will be made available for medical use. It has to be moved out of Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act. So I think that probably will happen fairly soon. Also, the other thing that's happening at the same time is there's enormous momentum toward legalization of psychedelics.
Yes.
And that's happening very fast. I think MDMA is going to be made available for treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, psilocybin for treatment of drug-resistant depression, and some states have already now made these completely legal. So I think that the change will come at the federal level fairly soon. I'm writing a book about psychedelics now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, and I think psychedelics can save the world, and I think it's maybe the only thing that can. We are so clearly headed toward disaster. Any way you look at it, whether it's climate change, political stuff. And I think psychedelics are the only thing I see out there that has the potential to turn that around. That a single psychedelic experience can change people's thinking, can change the way that they relate to nature, to each other. So I have tremendous hope. I think this is a very, very good thing that's happening. 1 or 2 sessions with a psychedelic can produce tremendous benefit. So that also, it has a great impact on the people who pay for healthcare.
Could you give a few words for the Japanese people in general on cannabis?
I would just say that cannabis is a very useful plant, and that it is silly to reject it and to fear it. That it's much more sensible to learn how to use it for good purposes. And that this is the trend in most developed countries now, is to do away with these legal restrictions.
大麻の伝統、縄文時代から続く伝統がある国が今一番悲惨な状況に僕はなっていると思っていて、その現状を世界の人にまず知ってもらいたいっていうのもあるし、日本人の中でやっぱり話題にしてもらいたいし、これでいいんだろうか